Hi folks, welcome back to We the People. I'm Dave Gallus, your host, and today's show is going to be, do you really know the truth? Do you know the truth? Now you might have seen on the opening screen that it still says that I'm running for New Mexico State Senate in District 37. Well, it's not been conclusive who won the vote here or nationally. And I'm protesting the vote because I don't think it was a fair vote. But even before we get to the elections, I want to talk to you about getting the truth. Now, there's a lot of scuttlebutt about fake news. Is it real? Is it fake? It really, to me, it depends on where you get your news. Now, if you're watching CNN and MSNBC, you're probably not getting the truth. You might be getting a little bit of the truth, but what you're getting is propaganda. Now, there are two news stations that I follow, OANN. They might come up on the screen here. There you go, OANN.com, and also Newsmax. Now, both of these can be accessed on the internet, but I have DirecTV, and I get both of them. I have satellite, but you can also get Newsmax alone on Dish Network. But I would also say Dish Network should be contacted and say, hey, I want both of these news stations. I don't consider MSNBC and NBC or CNN as anything more than propaganda. And even Fox News, to me, that's opinion, but that's also much too much opinion and too little news. So are you getting the truth? Now, I think back, I did some studying of world history, American history, and in Nazi Germany during the Second World War, the Jewish people were so depressed because of the, fines and the remunerations they had to pay to the Allies or their opponents in the First World War, that these people were in bad shape, starving. I mean, it was really bad. So you got Adolf Hitler rises to the occasion, and he utilized the fact that these people were depressed, angry, hungry, cold. So Hitler had to figure out a way to bring the German people up. And what he did was he made an enemy of the Jewish people. Now the Jewish people, I believe, at that time in the 40s and 30s, were very industrious people. They always have been. I worked for a lot of Jews in Philadelphia, and they were hard workers, and they worked their people hard. But they knew how to make money legally, and they worked hard. So back then in Germany, the Jewish people still had money. They had jewelry, they had other money, sold it away. So Hitler needed to victimize the Jews so that he could get their money, utilize their manpower in slave labor at the camps, but he had to make the Jews almost non-human. Actually, he made them non-human, because I've seen propaganda films where they made the Jewish people, the symbol of the Jewish people was rats, rodents that were diseased and running through Germany. So this is how the propaganda, I think it was Goebbels, was the propaganda minister, and he actually created this feeling among the German population to believe that eliminating the Jews was no problem. It was actually necessary. So they had to create an enemy. So I'm saying, parallel that now with what you might be hearing in MSNBC and CNN and the other, I call them news rags, because it's all about hate Trump, hate Trump. That's all you see. Now, granted, Donald J. Trump is not the most, I wouldn't say he was the most friendly person. All I remember hearing on TV was, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. But I've seen this man grow into his presidency, and I do believe he's divinely inspired with what he's doing. And if you constantly watch the propaganda news that says Trump is no good, Trump's a liar, Trump this, Trump that, and you have no idea of what he's really done because you're watching a certain news media, I have 4 pages of accomplishments, and he especially has helped the minorities and the middle-class people. But you wouldn't hear that on the other news rags. So watch CNN and MSNBC. I don't even like to say it. So now, what's going on here in Las Cruces and Doña Ana County and New Mexico, the state, is we're being locked down like many other states across the country. Why is our governor locking us down? Are we getting the truth? Well, I don't think so. Now, locally, to me, they're closing down our churches, they're closing down our schools, they're closing down our businesses. I've heard that 60% of our businesses will not recover. And I think only when they were pressed with complaints did they start closing down the big box stores like Walmart, like Target, like things like that. But I don't think we're getting the truth. Now, nationally, my producer can bring up some pictures that I brought. So these are pictures that show you that we are being asked to wear masks all the time, and yet our public officials do not. Now, the first picture is Nancy Pelosi. Now, she was caught getting her hair done, so she's out in public, she's not wearing a mask, and then she says she was set up. That was her, what would you say, defense for being in public without wearing a mask. Now, I don't know how important hairdressing is to Nancy Pelosi, but really, you lose confidence. The public will lose confidence. But you wouldn't see this on MSNBC and CNN. You will see it on Newsmax and OANN, One American News Network. So the next picture. Here's Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and they're doing their campaigning, which is a rare moment for Joe Biden when he's out in public. But if you'll notice, they're in close proximity, and there is no mask. They're not wearing masks. So, but again, you won't see this on the news rags, but you will see the factual information on Newsmax and One American News Network. So we have more examples of this. We have one, it was John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, his funeral. Bill Clinton, many other dignitaries are all in very close proximity, shoulder to shoulder, no masks are worn. So the Democrats are telling us, wear these masks, but they're not wearing them. Well, the latest one is Gavin Newsom. He got caught out in public having a dinner with friends or family, I guess it is, no masks. Now you got to wonder, and we can scroll through these pictures. If producer don't mind, just work through those pictures again. Just keep bringing them back up, because I want you to, if these folks are not willing to wear a mask, how dangerous is the COVID-19? Are you getting the truth? Because if they were actually as terrified about the pandemic as they propose that it is, why aren't they wearing masks? They should be terrified. They are terrifying us for this. So really, do we want to allow this to happen? Or do you want to get the truth? You're not getting it. So in this election, we'll move on to elections here. In this election, I don't feel as though I got a fair shake, or the people in Doñana County here in Las Cruces area in New Mexico. Now, in the past, we would always have oversight. And I believe that we're done with the people with the masks, but we're on to elections now. That the county clerk's office, in the past, when there was a very key person that used to be at the county clerk's office, Andrew Ostick. And I met Andrew a long time ago when I asked him how I could help in politics, and he got me set up to be a presiding judge twice and a judge of elections once in different elections and past elections. A very sharp fellow. And Andrew is a Democrat, which is fine, and he's a good friend of mine. But he actually got, what would you say, he got railroaded, and he lost his job at the county clerk's office. But while Andrew was there, as a clerk's assistant, I believe it was, when he would set up the presiding judge and the judge of elections and all the polling places, it was always even, where you would have some Democrat, some Republican, Libertarian, if there was a third party running or any third party that qualified. But since Andrew left, things have really degraded as far as, what would you say, transparency, honesty, integrity in the elections office, the county clerk's office. And I got shuffled around during my last job as an election official. I was the judge of elections at New Mexico State at Corbett Center. And it was like pulling teeth to become an election judge or to become any election official. And I wanted to oversee to make sure things were straight. Well, they just tried to keep me from doing it. Most people would have given up, but I said, I'm not giving up. So I made sure that I got the job. My qualifications were clean. I had no issues whatsoever in my background that would have stopped that. So I finally got the job. But since then, I found out that there's only Democrats that are at some of the polling places, especially in the South, Sunland Park, I don't know, a couple small towns on the way down to Sunland Park. And it makes you wonder what's going on here. Where is the true oversight? And we're not getting it. Now, up until I think it was just after the primary election, there's a law, and it's in this is the election handbook, 2019 version, and it says, section 1614, handling mailed ballots, that the qualified mail ballots, when they're returned, are overseen by a presiding judge and 2 judges of elections. They're from different parties, so that when you have an absentee ballot that is mailed in, it has a secrecy flap on it. And that secrecy flap would be taken or opened. Before that, it wouldn't be. And it would have the person's name, signature, and last 4 digits of Social Security number. And all of these judges were permitted to review that information against the voting register. So the register is the information that the county has on all the people that are registered to vote, what party they're registered with, their name, address, last 4 of their Social Security number. It might even have all 4. In the past, that's the way it was done. But there was a bill that was put through. It was called SB 4, and I think it was put through in, a special session, June 29th, 2020. So that would be just after the primary election. And this bill was put in place under the, the reasoning was that the pandemic caused this part of this bill to be enacted, and the part that I'm referring to is where now the county clerk would be the one that would actually peel back the label on the secrecy label on the absentee ballot to verify that that is a qualified voter and that they've input the proper information. Now, it doesn't say anything about not having the oversight of the presiding judge and the 2 judges of election, which would make it transparent, and people would trust that at least this portion of the absentee voting would be fair and honest, in that a Democrat, Republican, and another third party, if they qualified, would actually oversee and verify that this is a valid voter. We didn't have that. There was no voter board convened, and that is the job of the election, county election official, which is the county clerk. Amanda Askin, Lindsey Bachman, and Andy Perez. These are the 3 that work in the county clerk's hierarchy, and Amanda Askin is the clerk. So there was no oversight. And the next step along the way, so you don't have any oversight. So we don't know, and I don't trust the county clerk's office. They could have penciled in the 4 digits of their Social Security number. They could have made a mark that looks like a signature. But we won't know, because there was no oversight. And when one of our legal challengers, Dan Parrott, went to try and be an overseer, not an election official, but as an overseer, just to observe what was going on, he was not permitted in the county clerk's office. And not only that, later on at the second step, Dan Parrott was not allowed to be close enough to actually oversee the absentee ballots on the second phase when it went to the warehouse and they were putting the ballots into the machines. So there's a lot of things, folks, that we're not getting the truth and we're not getting honesty here. So we're going to take a short break and come back, and we will continue to discuss, do you know the truth? I'll be back in a minute.
Horizon Granite is here. We'll come to you to customize your kitchen and bathroom with beautiful countertops and cabinets. Find out more at horizongranite.com. Call us at 575-650-3180.
Horizon Granite is here.
It's here.
Make yourself a beautiful home.
Hi, I'm Ray Bamberg with Here on Earth. I would like to invite you for a free hearing evaluation to our office. We've been here in southern New Mexico for 34 years helping people hear better.
They've stormed beaches and freed countries. They've raised our flag and our hope. They've been called leathernecks. They've been called devil dogs. But above all, they're called Marines.
Hi folks, welcome back to We the People. I'm Dave Gallus, your host, and we're talking about, are you getting the truth with your news media? Do you understand what's going on? Do we have a fair election? So I just finished up the last segment where I was talking about how we did not have oversight in the absentee ballots when they were first opened. Well, they were first exposed, the names and the Social Security, the last four of the Social Security number of the voter that submitted the absentee ballot. Hopefully it was the actual voter, but there was no verification because in the past we would have oversight of election officials, which included a presiding judge, two judges of elections that were from different parties to make it fair. Everybody would look at it, compare it. If it's okay, it goes into the accepted pile. If it didn't find those all that information correctly, it would go in a separate pile. And lately, the people are the election. The county clerk's office is allowed to try and contact the people to resolve what the issue is if they made a mistake on it. So, but there's other questions about voter integrity. And the one thing that's been brought up nationally is the Dominion voting machines. Now you're going to see on CNN that it's pie in the sky. It's ridiculous to think that these machines were corrupted. Well, my information that I'm getting, and I would suggest you fact check everything that you hear, is that those Dominion machines were originally I think it was Smartmatic was the company from Venezuela that was put together, Dominion and Smartmatic or some conglomeration of those two, with hardware and software that actually got Hugo Chavez elected and never lost an election. So there was programs that were in these machines that were supposed to adjust the votes to make sure that they knew what the outcome was. They could pre-plan the outcome. Now, those same machines are in our county. I've been the presiding judge twice, judge of elections once, helped out with elections many times. Those Dominion machines, the manufacturer Dominion, is in our county and has been used. So you got to wonder, are we getting a fair shake here? Because you'll see Rudy Giuliani is proposing that these machines you are able to use an algorithm that can actually change the votes. They could weight heavy votes for one party and less heavy weight for the other party. Just change the percentages of votes. So it's possible. So I'm not done fighting for my election, but it's not really about my election. It's about a fair election, and I don't feel we're getting that. So there is a doctor, Dr. Shiva Ayudari, that he has a very good YouTube presentation that if you look at it and just have an open mind when you look at this stuff, because it's a very good possibility that he can prove indirectly that these machines you can tamper with these machines and change the outcome. And he has a website, if my producer can put it up there. It's vashiva.com. And it actually will give you the analysis of the voter fraud that he has found. Now, he was running for office too, I think as a federal House seat, and I don't know what state it was. But listen to what Dr. Shiva has to say. I'm not even going to try his last name. So, if these things are corrupted, do you really want to know what the truth is? I mean, if you're a Democrat, now I've heard too that people that they didn't hear the information about Joe Biden and his son's connection with Burisma, which is a foreign, I think it was, I forget what nation it is, but Joe Biden's son was getting multi-million-dollar kickbacks because of Joe Biden's influence in the U.S. as a vice president. But you wouldn't know this if you're watching CNN and MSNBC because they play it down. They don't let you know what's going on. So go to One American News Network, go to Newsmax, and start getting the truth. Now, I write for a publication. It's called Issachar. And Issachar, it's a Christian publication. There's 4 of us writers. We finance it. We pay for the production of it. And we send this out to anybody that would like to read it. And if anybody would like to write to it, we would like to hear what they have to say. Anybody can write to it. And if you don't want to use your name, you could write, it could be a synonym, a pseudonym, a fake name. But this is something that I wrote, and I would like to read to you. And I think I do better with words on paper than I do in a continuous thought here, so please bear with me. The article I wrote says, Standing Up to Bullies or Stop the Steal in New Mexico. Starts off, there's no wondering whether or not we will be confronted with bullies throughout our life. The question is, how will we deal with them? Will we cower and run? Will we quietly slip away from the confrontation, or will we stand and fight? Funny how things you never forget. When I was 10 years old, living in a blue-collar neighborhood in northeast Philadelphia, my dad was a Philadelphia fireman, and he was my hero at the time. He's still my hero, but he passed on. And we valued our first responders back then, big time. Anyway, a kid I used to hang around with, Joey Marston. He was a real funny kid. He was very emotional when he would talk. He was animated in his motions and things like that. But Joey had braces on his legs. And it's like Forrest Gump, you know. And Joey was a real nice kid. Anyway, when I was growing up, this was in the 50s and 60s, our neighborhood was, we had other groups of kids in close proximity to us in other neighborhoods, and some of the kids were roughnecks. Now, the one gang that hung out at the Crispin School, which was not far from where our neighborhood was, the one leader of the gang was a kid that was deaf. And but he was a real scrapper. He was a fighter. Well, he was a leader of this bunch and the biggest kid in the group. So one day, me and Joey are walking down the street, and we spot the gang, and they spot us at the same time. Well, we start running because there's me and Joey's not a fighter, and there's 7 of them. And I thought, this isn't a battle we want to take on. So I hightail it. I start running. I look back, and the last thing I saw was Joey. He's swarmed by the mob, and he's screaming to me, Dave, Dave, help. I just kept running. I never forgave myself for that. And a couple days afterward, Joey's got a flat lip. And he said, Dave, why did you leave me? I didn't know what to say. I left him because I was scared and I ran away. And I don't ever want to go through that again. So I want to stand up to every bully that I confront. And I think sometimes I got into public office, or at least tried to get into public office, running for state senate, for the same reason I became a Philadelphia policeman, because I detest bullies. When I went on the street, when I was a kid, you know, I held my own when I was confronted with bullies in the ballpark, and except for Joey, Joey Marston. Someday I'd like to look him up and say, Joe, I'm sorry. I was afraid. But since that time, I don't ever recall backing down from a fight, and I held my own against the bullies on the ball fields and the playgrounds and stuff like that. But then when I became a policeman, I was 19 when I started in Philadelphia, different kind of bully. These are deadly bullies. These are murderers, rapists, robbers. But they were honest bullies because you knew how to deal with them. There was right up front, these are criminals and they had to be taken out. Not killed necessarily, but taken out. So dealing with those bullies was a different matter than dealing with the kids on the ball field. They were deadly. You couldn't lose the fight in the street as a policeman. But when I started looking into politics, it's like, this is a different kind of bully. These people talk real nice to you and then stab you in the back. Or they'll tell you one thing and then do another. It's like, this is a whole new world. And you know, I think back and I remember Malcolm X was, he was coming up in the black movement along with a lot of other black leaders. And Malcolm X he really loved his people. He really loved all people, I would say. But he really understood what the deep Democratic Party was about back then. And there's a statement, you can look it up, and he said, you keep voting, meaning the black people, you keep voting for the Democratic Party that promises you everything and gives you nothing, unless it's election time, that's all they want is your vote, then you're a chump. And you're a disgrace to your race. Look it up. You'll see it. I think a lot of black people have recognized how the Democratic Party has used them over the time. And I have many Democratic friends. But again, if all you do is watch CNN and MSNBC, you're not getting the truth. So I would say, if you want to understand what the truth is, go to CNN. No, don't go to CNN. Don't go to MSNBC. Go to One American News Network, OANN, and go to Newsmax and really search for the truth because you're not getting it on your liberal news media. So you just check it out. Keep an open mind and think about what you want. Do you want the truth? Or can you handle the truth? Or maybe if you did get the truth, you might be thinking differently about our president, about Republican Party, about independents, about libertarians. So, okay, folks, well, I guess that's enough for 1 week. I don't know what the show's going to be next week, but it'll probably be something about waking you up. So, if you want to be a guest on the show, give me a call, 856-952-7343. Any comments? Give me a call. I'll be glad to help. Take care, and I'll see you next week.